Starting your day off with a take on Vegas you won't get anywhere else.
Hi, I'm Holly Madison.
Hi, this is William Shatner.
It is Larry the Cable Guy, and I listen. Why? Because I'm a good American. So is he. And if you don't listen to him, you need to pack up and leave this country.
This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
Come on, guys!
We are so glad to have you on a Friday. It is the Vegas Take, coming to you live from beautiful Sin City. I'm Chris Wynn in for Brian Shapiro, getting you set for your weekend here on KDWN, 101.5 FM, 720 AM. So much to get into as we get you set, and a lot of news that's transpired over the week. And, of course, JD and Brian have gotten into it big time across the board, and it's whether it's politics, of course, entertainment, as well as sports. We're going to get into it today, and got some great guests today. Michael Avenatti is going to join us in the 10 o'clock hour. We'll talk about the Democrats and the town halls going down and what's the situation with the Democratic candidates as we look ahead to 2020. And then in the 11 o'clock hour from the GCI guys, Lee Goldberg will join us live in studio, as well as Brian Feldman, host of Out of Line over on Fox Sports Radio, is going to join us. We'll talk a little NFL. Of course, week one kicked off last night in Chicago as the Bears and the Packers went at it, and then it comes in earnest on Sunday when all the other teams kick off their season. So a lot to get into in that hour as well, too. But, of course, at the top of the show, we like to dive into a little politics. JD, it's always good to see you. How are you?
You know, I'm doing okay, C-Dubs. It's the Sharp and Wynn show today.
Yes, it is. And hey,
nice little transition.
We can pull it off, my friend. We can roll through it pretty smoothly.
I'm quite confident in our abilities.
Now, of course, we're still tracking Hurricane Dorian as it's made landfall close to the Carolina coastlines. It's a hurricane that, of course, originated back on the other side of the Bahamas. And, of course, the Bahamas took the brunt of it, a Category 5 storm there, and, just tremendous damage. And it's a tragic situation all around for that island. But, of course, the focus in this country, of course, is what is going to happen here and exactly what went down. So today it's howling over North Carolina's Outer Banks, lashing the low-lying barrier islands as a weakened Category 1 storm, and it's made landfall over Cape Hatteras. So it's a powerful storm. Obviously, it's knocked out power to almost 200,000 homes and businesses across the state, and massive winds threatening buildings all on the course. Obviously, water and rain a major issue as, it's basically been pelted in that area with wind and rain all throughout the morning, and is going to continue to. The big problem with the storm, JD, of course, was that it basically came to a screeching halt, right? Like basically over the Bahamas. That's where, it really got the gist of it, because, we were expecting that thing was going to move along at, at least to maybe a 5 mile an hour to maybe a 10 mile an hour pace. That wasn't the case. It stalled out. And so that's why you got so much of the winds. Obviously, when you're talking about winds upwards of 150 to 180 miles an hour,
pretty fast. Yeah,
I mean that's just something that you're just not prepared to deal with. And I'm sure that there's going to be all kinds of just basic recovery going on in the Bahamas. But it also delayed what we thought was going to be a landfall in the United States, and in Florida, of course, was preparing big time in all parts of that state that it could possibly hit there, but that hasn't been the case. So President Trump decided to weigh in on his thought process and on what his prediction was as far as where the hurricane was going to go. And look, it was from the onset for the president, it wasn't timed well. And it was not accurate by any stretch.
Well, his timing isn't typically great.
Here's the thing, though, JD. I think he was well-intentioned initially when it came to the Twitter warning from the president at the start of the week. But unfortunately for him, there's been some circumstances that have taken place, and now it's extended into a 5-day presidential feud that culminated basically yesterday. And now it's transformed into what's been called a forgettable fact check of his words into an epic storm of attacks as the president repeatedly doubled down and dug in. This is what President Trump does. He doubles down and he digs in, and he refuses to admit any type of wrong or any type of apology or any type. This is what he does. So, and then on top of that, he goes out and he starts to blame the media for their coverage of it and subsequently turns that controversy into seemingly... I mean, look, this is something that you would think would be pointless as far as the president, who's not a weather expert, okay, making a prediction about a hurricane. It's not something that should be on the docket for the commander-in-chief.
Especially when you think about what a hurricane is, which is a collection of winds that is moving. A large collection of winds that even the most experienced weathercaster looks at it and goes, oh, well, I think it's going to go over here. And is it possible that the hurricane can change paths at any time? Absolutely, because it is a collection of winds and rain. That's what it is, and water. So I'm sure that at some point Alabama was going to be a target, and then everything moved. And it's not like Trump said, okay, if you're in Alabama, you need to pack up all your stuff and evacuate. All he said was, there might be some really strong winds, and beyond that, I don't know, but I would be prepared. That's all he said.
Right.
The media's making it seem like he told every single Alabaman to pack up their stuff and head down to Louisiana. That did not happen at all.
Well,
it was nothing like that. That
did not happen, but something else did happen. We're going to get into this, of course. Now, look, Trump canceled a weekend trip to Poland to monitor the weather threat, obviously, which is understandable, okay? And news about Hurricane Dorian dominated the president's... Look, the president already has a prolific Twitter feed, so that goes without saying that he's going to comment on it. But apparently he retweeted information from national TV networks about the strength of the storm. He put on, satellite images from the National Weather Service and, and a short videos of him actually attending FEMA briefings about the hurricane. And look, when you have all this information, that kind of gives Americans a sense that the president is not only, monitoring the hurricane closely, but also that his involvement is at the center of it. Well, he makes the claim that a state like Alabama could be affected by the hurricane. And here's where we get into an issue, because the National Weather Service office in Birmingham quickly corrected him online, writing on Twitter, Alabama will not all in capitals, see any impact from Dorian. We repeat, no impact from Hurricane Dorian will be felt across Alabama. The system will remain far to east. Now, that's what exactly has transpired here. Okay, the actual hurricane, moving from a Category 5 to a Category 3 and now a 1, has shifted course. The anticipation was that it was going to hit somewhere around mid-Florida, along the East Coast, and obviously preparations were made in Florida along the coastline and even inland as well, too, as folks both in Orlando and Tampa and even in Fort Myers were preparing to have issues there. So it ended up shifting, and look, we're never talking about great news when it's a hurricane and people have died. And by the way, the death toll sits at 30 right now and counting. Most of those, of course, in the Bahamas and in that area. But so the shifting of the hurricane, is actually good news, I guess, for the United States. But for some reason, the president wanted to continue this tirade. I don't even know if you want to call it a tirade, but this, description of what he thought was going to happen. And so there's this map that has been, all over the place, and not just in the media, but in social media and all across the board of, the trajectory of the hurricane. And it has the trajectory encircled in a white setup over the state of Florida and parts of southern Georgia, and even along the coastline on the west coast of Florida. And now there is a black Sharpie that has outlined the lower part of Georgia and the lower part of Alabama as if it's some part of where the hurricane is going to impact. And so initial reaction, and it was kind of interesting to me when I was watching the television coverage of this on all the networks, whether it was Fox, CNN, MSNBC, NBC, CBS, ABC. And it was almost like everybody was trying to figure out who did it, who put a black Sharpie on a weather map to give the indication that Alabama was somehow under threat. And it was hilarious because for the first basically 24 hours, nobody wanted to admit it, or nobody wanted to, dive in and find out exactly what was the deal on that. And apparently yesterday we found out it was President Trump who actually circled it in a black Sharpie on the weather map And look, there's people out there that are saying, oh, you know what, that's illegal. You're not supposed to alter it, a National Weather Service map, but we understand the climate we live in now. That's not going to end up being an issue. But it is an issue that we have the President of the United States who is, circling a map of a state that's not going to be affected by a storm, and then not exactly coming forthright immediately about it and saying, oh, yeah, it was me. I did it because that's my impression. I think that's what's going down. And instead, he was kind of wishy-washy about it, and now we are where we are. And so he ends up with his pants down, kind of, JD. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I think it's something that it's not ideal for the President of the United States to be in this situation.
It's pretty par for the course for the last 2 years. Now, Chris,
no doubt.
Let me ask this. If you were a Alabama resident who was a supporter of Donald Trump, would you be hanging on his every last word for his weather advice?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
For a lot of different advice, not just weather advice. There's a lot of things I would.
And if you were, wouldn't it just kind of be, Darwinism at work at its best?
Oh, it would be without question.
It absolutely would be.
It would be just along those lines.
He is not a weather specialist. Obviously, he has the best interest of the country, in his mind and his heart, because he is the President of the United States. He's protecting 330 million people. He has property, all golf courses, his own real estate in the course of the supposed path of this hurricane. But again, Chris, it is a collection of winds. These things change courses all the time. And is it possible that at some point that it was pointed towards Alabama? Yes, absolutely. Now, do I agree that Donald Trump needs to at some point, because this probably happened 90 or 100 times since he's been president, where he has been clearly wrong and he just refuses to say sorry or admit that he's wrong, which to me is insane, and it shows how insecure he really is at his core. I do support Donald Trump, but I am getting kind of tired of this. He needs to at some point say, hey, you know what? I was incorrect. I have never heard him actually say that one time since he's been president of the United States, and I think that needs to change soon.
We want your thoughts on this. Hit us up on the phone lines at 702-257-5396 is the phone number. Myself and JD live in studio. Brian out today. Brian's a little bit under the weather, so let's jump on the phone lines and go out to Brady. Brady Jones on the phone. Brady, what's going on? Hey, what do you think about this whole Donald Trump Sharpie Gate situation going on with Hurricane Dorian?
What's up, Brady?
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen. Sharpie Gate still continues. I see day 3 now.
Embarrassing.
Yes.
We're still talking about Sharpie Gate. The left is, and we got a Category 3 storm hammering North Carolina right now.
Right.
It's so asinine. I can't believe that you guys are hanging on about how he drew his Sharpie into Alabama. There's actually plenty of models that showed that the storm could have gone there. If you look back, there's plenty of models.
Exactly.
We're not hanging on the story, Brady. It's all over the place.
Brady,
I've been researching it on a number of sites across the web, the last 2.5 hours. So it's not something. And look, we can walk and chew gum at the same time, right? We can still deal with the hurricane.
I cannot do that.
We can still deal with the hurricane and still wonder why the President of the United States is altering maps to prove his idiotic idea as far as what the hurricane's going to do.
If President Trump had admitted he was wrong on a couple of other occasions, this wouldn't even be a big deal. But that's what this is all about, is the fact that he won't admit he's wrong. And yes, did he create a counterfeit map? Of course he did. Fine, whatever. But that wouldn't even be a big deal. The thing is, he has never admitted he was wrong, and it's starting to become he is willing to double down and to never say, hey, I was incorrect. And no matter how big the issue is, and this is a pretty big issue. I mean, hurricanes they happen every year. But you're right, Outer Banks, North Carolina is getting destroyed right now.
Right.
Charleston, South Carolina had 15 feet of water from last I saw from pictures yesterday. Though he has to at some point stop worrying about himself and looking bad and realize that he is the leader of the United States of America. And it's okay to be wrong. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't make you not president. It doesn't make you any less likely to win in 2020. But it does make you look insecure and kind of pathetic. And that's my take on it.
So, Brady, what do you think? But seriously, I mean, look, we understand that there's a Category 1 hurricane going on right now on the East Coast, and all precautions are being taken and all steps are being taken by our government. We would hope, to take care of it.
They absolutely are.
But this kind of thing, Brady, I mean, it just keeps rearing its ugly head with President Trump. Whether it's this, whether it's what he says overseas when he's on, when he's on international trips. I mean, it just seems like a never-ending barrage of nonsense that comes out of the commander-in-chief's mouth on a daily basis.
Well, he's a fighter, man. He's got that New York Bronx mentality.
Right, and I understand.
When you go after Trump, he's going to hit back hard. Not everything he says and does is always correct, but he's going to respond. If you attack him, he's going to respond back.
But, Brady, wouldn't you like to see him admit that he's wrong at some point? Just one time?
Yeah, he should respond and say, everybody, I am definitely not the Nostradamus of the Weather Channel.
Exactly. That's fine. However he wants to make it funny, he wants to downplay it, fine. But he refuses to admit that he is incorrect. And to me, that is totally unbecoming of the President of the United States.
Yeah, he's not much fun for apologies, so we'll see if that ever happens.
Not even apologies, but he even admitted that he just was not right.
But again, with this storm, from the predictions of where it ended up, it came right to the side of Florida. As the crow flies, it wasn't that many miles off, and even they say when those Weather Channel estimates, when they're starting them forecasts, there's a 600-mile range of where that cone of the hurricane could hit. So really,
right,
Trump wasn't off that much.
Brady, we appreciate the call. Thanks for chiming in on your Friday. Have a good weekend, all right?
Right on.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Brady.
702-257-5396 is the phone number. We're talking about Donald Trump, his reaction when it came to the hurricane, as far as his prediction and what this means as far as the president's credibility, to be quite honest with you. And let's go to the phone lines. JD joins us now on the phone lines. JD, thanks for joining us. How are you?
What's up, JD?
Doing great, guys. But getting better. First of all, what I'd like to say is, who was the first one to go help these people in the Bahamas? The U.S. Coast Guard and everybody else from the United States. I don't see that being talked about or highlighted enough. We're always the first to help.
I don't think there's any question about that. Yeah, and we should be, right? I mean, if we have the means, JD,
what do you mean
right?
We should be.
We should be. If we have the means, JD, and we have the proximity. Obviously, the Bahamas is right, just off our coastline.
Enough on that.
So, well, you asked the question. I'm telling you why. That's why we make it a priority. So
we start. You're spending, I don't know what they said, 3 days now on this Sharpie and this thing. When we have so many important things in the world and the country. President Trump, they started with him when he was elected, trying to stop the electoral count, the electoral people from voting for him, to not make him president. The Hollywood actors had ads. You had spies in his campaign and spies in his administration. 4 days later, Comey goes into the White House and said, I wouldn't have done it to Obama, but he done it to Flynn. You want to know why Trump is always so aggressive and he won't apologize? Because from the first day he took office, prior to that, they were trying to stop him from taking office. The first day he made his inauguration speech, they were critical. There were demonstrations. And now, Mr. Wynn, you're spending so much time on a little map and a circle and you stated that the winds were 160 miles an hour earlier.
Well, they were when it was Category 5 storm. Yes, in the Bahamas.
Let me correct you.
They were more than that.
There were gusts up to 225 miles. So it's very easy.
Okay. So we're going to nitpick about the. Look, you're the one that brought up the election. Are we going to relitigate the election?
No,
Donald Trump won the election. He's the president of the United States. It was almost 3 years ago. You're talking about,
Mr. Wynn, I believe JD is the host, not you.
Well,
let him talk a little bit.
I love it. JD's going to set up our show.
I appreciate
JD,
the kind words, JD.
Look. It's a back and forth between us. I know. I'm sure you have a genius perspective on how radio shows are supposed to be run and what the structure is supposed to be. But I'm actually in for your good buddy Brian Shapiro today, who would not be afraid to just absolutely lambaste you right now after making a comment like that.
Yeah,
so
he's a little under the weather, which happens. But you know what? Honestly, JD,
someone over the phone and to hang up on them.
Have I called you a name? Have I hung up on you? I've let you go on and on.
I'm referring to Shapiro now. You brought him up.
Yeah, because he's the actual host.
To be able to criticize people over the phone and hang up on them and call them names doesn't take very much intelligence because you have the button and you have the authority. And all the shows that I did as a fill-in host, over 100, I never hung up on anyone.
Well, that's a good thing to do then. I am impressed, JD, that you're able to pull that off. So have a great weekend, though. We appreciate your time, okay?
Hey, JD.
What's up, JD?
Like I said, you're the host. I'd like to hear a little bit more of you.
Okay. Appreciate the input.
Have a good weekend, JD.
So by the way, the wind's at 225 miles an hour. That would actually be
okay. Excuse me for
that would be a category 6.
My misinformation I put out there about how high the winds were. I wasn't lined up exactly on what was going down. 702-257-5396 is the phone line. We have Lewis waiting on hold. Also, Chris, Marge, and Eddie. We're going to take a quick break and come right back, and we're going to keep rolling on this. My name is Chris Wynn. I'm in for Brian Shapiro along with J.D. Sharp. It is the Vegas Take coming your way live, 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON. Welcome back. It is the Friday edition of the Vegas Take. Brian Shapiro out under the weather today, but never fear. I'm Chris Wynn in for him, along with J.D. Sharp, as we continue and get you set for your weekend. We've been discussing the situation with President Trump and his 9 tweets and 5 maps about Alabama and the big storm. Is it a big deal? Are we making too much out of this? Is it just, is it just one more thing? I would contend this. This is what I would say. I would say it lends to a bigger issue with the president, and that is credibility. Okay? Now, he defended a doctored hurricane map that has been altered with a black Sharpie to include the state of Alabama. And then yesterday, he had his White House release a 225-word statement defending his erroneous warnings that Alabama was going to, quote-unquote, going to get a piece of the storm. Now, of course, Hurricane Dorian right now battering the Carolinas with torrential rain and wind as last night as well as today. And President Trump remained fixated on sunny Alabama. Now, it's not just the liberal media that has chimed in here. It's not just social media. It's not just any media outlet that you can name. How about Fox News? As Shepard Smith, Shepard Smith's been known to call out the president on occasion and make comments. And Shepard Smith railed against Donald Trump's explanation of Sharpie Gate and outlines Trump's history when it comes to fake news and lying to the public. And he was absolutely adamant when he talked about this.
Why would the President of the United States do this? He decries fake news that isn't and disseminates fake news that is. Think China pays the tariffs. The wall is going up. Historic inauguration crowds. Russia probe is a witch hunt. You need an ID to buy cereal. Noise from windmills causes cancer. It's endless. And now the Sharpie map that hurricanes Alabama.
And it's just, he's just pointing out news. This isn't fake news, okay? This isn't the left-wing media. This isn't, some rogue outlying issue where they're bringing up what the president has said and not being honest about it. He's just laying it out there. 702-257-5396 is the phone number. Chris Wynn and JD live here in studio. Phone lines are open. We do have on hold. Anthony joins us now. Anthony, thanks very much for spending some time here on the Vegas Take. Want to get your opinion on exactly what's going on here.
Yes. I think
what's up, Anthony?
Now, hey. Now, I'm a liberal, so I'm a little biased. Mm-hmm. But I think now any Republican and conservative that supports this guy is acting like abused women. You see the absolute devastation of this man, and yet you still support him. It's almost now comedic. I mean, this story is still a story because he is now using taxpayer funds to have staff roll out fake maps and old maps from 2 weeks ago. Taxpayer funds. Right now we have Alabama and their business leaders calling the Weather Channel to see if they're in danger. Until the Weather Channel is saying that we have been overrun with calls from Alabama business owners. I think that, it's now I think it's time that any conservative who is a true conservative, that likes open debate. I'm talking about Bush conservatives and Reagan conservatives need to really have a second look at this guy. Policy of envy, it just doesn't work in this country. This man is envious of Barack Obama and envious of Hillary Clinton to the point now to where he's embarrassing the country.
Well, isn't it? It's just a continuous cycle, right? When it comes to Trump's White House, they go from, trying to clean up his mistaken warnings to, trying to defend his tweets. They release statements. They got, they're disseminating alternative hurricane maps. And then what do? They go out and they attack the media, right? I mean, they go out and they try to claim fake news. It's not true. Meantime, all they're doing is throwing an orange on the floor and trying to tell me that it's an apple, right? I mean, that's exactly what they're doing. So
you can see it.
Yeah, but the problem here, and correct me if I'm wrong, Anthony, but I think the problem is that we're just so bombarded. It's not even every day anymore, right? It seems like it's every couple of hours there's some absolutely absurd claim, non-truth, some type of statement by the President of the United States that just gets debunked. And so we're in the midst of it, and we just are desensitized by it and decide to just let it go, right?
Well, I mean, the Department of Defense now had to release a memo,
saying
that our president is wrong. I mean, people, we really need to really take a second look, and I'm hoping that Republicans and real conservatives like your co-host there, who I'm sure is a true conservative,
yes,
you have to take a second look at this guy. We need real debate. Again, I'm kind of biased. I'm a liberal, and so for me, but I'm a Washington, Jefferson, and a FDR type of liberal, not a socialist liberal like Bernie Sanders. Not like that. So I think that we really, now I think that when he became president, people who had HHA loans, their mortgages went up $100.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have our deficit. Now it's going to be doubled again. We have to fix that.
Yeah.
Our military is in Afghanistan now 18 years, right? We just lost 2 more men last week.
Right.
So now we have our military paying the brunt. So I think that people, you really need to have a second look. That's all I'm saying.
I appreciate the call, Anthony. We got a lot of callers lined up, but have a great weekend.
Yeah,
right?
Thanks for the call, Anthony. And, it is interesting at this point how and it's very hypocritical that he claims that fake news exists, but then he creates his own fake news at the same time with this with this doctored map. It is not a good look.
702-257-5396 is the phone line. Jimmy joins us now on the Vegas Take. Jimmy, how are you tonight? Thanks for joining us.
Hey, what's up, Jimmy?
I'm doing great. Listen, they got. I don't excuse the Trump trying to be the weatherman. Weathermen are wrong all the time.
Exactly.
But that's besides the point. But you got this guy under a microscope, and you, for now, you're talking about this guy for 45 minutes for about saying that the hurricane may hit Alabama. How about we talk about, let's say, something a little more important, like the attempted soft coup on the President of the United States by the Obama president.
Well, it's very interesting. But look, the reason why we talk this guy, you say this guy, he's the President of the United States, all right? He's not a freshman congresswoman like Ilhan Omar, right? Or Tlaib, or he is the president. That's why we're talking about it. It has nothing to do with, it has nothing to do with the fact that, look, at the end of the day, this is not a big deal, okay? In my opinion, all right, he's writing something that's not true on a weather map about a hurricane that is going up our eastern coastline, but it's not going to hit Alabama. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's not really a huge deal. But the reason why we're discussing it, and the reason why it's been in the news basically for 3 days, is because it lends more to the credibility of the President of the United States, and it's just one more example that opponents of the president, like myself, who's a never Trumper, and a lot of people out there that think that this guy has absolutely no business being in the White House right now. It's just one more example of what that is. So
the economy is doing great.
It is. The economy. You know what? The economy is not. Well,
on China,
you can say it's great. I don't know if it's great.
And that's part of his saving grace right now. That's very important for his presidency. If the economy falters and doesesn't continue to do well, he could be at risk of losing in 2020. I think everybody knows that, including Trump supporters.
Worker, but he seems like Obama said. What's he have, a crystal ball or whatever to to get all these new jobs coming back into the country. He's got a lot of jobs coming on, and it seems like he's doing all right. Now, Joe Biden, he stood by and watched Obama try and pull a soft coup on the president of our country. I mean, I think that's more important.
I don't really know what you mean by that. That's that. Yeah. What? Yeah. I mean, look. I understand. Yeah, a soft coup on President Trump. I don't know. Barack Obama is the former president.
Do you think
he hasn't been president for 3 years. I don't know what coup you're talking
Jimmy,
about.
Do you think
I assume it's the deep state, right?
Exactly, Jimmy. Do you think that Obama is a globalist?
You got to pay attention, dude.
Pay attention. Hey, Barack Obama is not president anymore. I pay attention to the guy who's president now.
The point is, he tried to pull a soft coup on the president of the country.
Look, you're making that statement. You're making that statement, but you're not backing it up with anything factual whatsoever that would support that statement. So, look, I hear you. You can say whatever you want, but that doesn't mean that doesn't make it true.
I mean, come on, dude, get your head out of
Oh, yeah, okay, that's just on me. Jimmy, enjoy the weekend.
Hey, Jimmy, thanks
appreciate the call. 702-257-5396. You're trying to convince me that Barack Obama had some soft coup plan for President Trump when nobody thought President Trump was going to win in the first place, including President Trump, by the way. You looked at President Trump's face when he's sitting next to Barack Obama after he got elected, and he looked shook. The guy was scared because he didn't think he was going to win. And all you people out there act like it was a lock. It was one of the biggest upsets in political history. And he won. Okay, he won. I'm not denying that he did. But don't give me this crap about Barack Obama and the deep state trying to take down Donald Trump. Donald Trump has done enough by himself to try to take himself down. It's been crazy. 702-257-5396 is the phone number. Marge joins us now on the Vegas Take. Marge, we appreciate your call. How are you?
What's up, Marge?
Hi, Chris. Chris, you're doing a great job.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Marge.
He is doing pretty well today.
I'm under siege here. I got the Trump supporters calling in trying to bash me up.
Yeah, and I think Brian needs to be nervous, Chris.
Oh, I don't know about that, but he's like he can hold his own. He's fine.
I know.
Yep.
I know. And I'm glad that you're using the term I used yesterday about credibility about this when I called in. It is a matter of credibility. It's one of how many things is piling up as far as, what he says and then his reaction because all of a sudden he's wrong, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, he doesn't need to make this about him, and that's what he's doing. It isn't necessary. And again, it's okay to be wrong sometimes. And,
yes.
And again, I'm a big Trump supporter, but I've picked up on this. I've noticed this, and I'm sure that a lot of people have as well that are big Trump supporters. That the guy never admits that he's wrong, and what that is when you never admit you're wrong and you put the blame on somebody else. That is the textbook definition of narcissism.
Yeah, and the other thing that I saw that report about that he had some staffers or staff person write that 250-page report explaining the whole thing. I thought to myself, what a waste of tax dollars, And instead of doing all that, where's his statements about what we're doing for the Carolinas now and helping those people out? I've not heard anything about that. It's very minimal. He should be touting that, if he was really taking action and being presidential about the whole thing. And instead, he's defending a position, and as you said, Chris, I mean, even weather people are wrong. I mean, that's the one job where you can be wrong and still retain your job. I mean, just think about that,
When I heard about the 225-page document that the White House put out regarding this, what the first thing I thought of was? I thought of that ridiculous committee that was convened to find illegal voters in California. Yeah. Right? That's exactly what I thought of. What are we doing? It's nonsense. Okay? And look, and like I said, Mark, like I said earlier, at the end of the day, when it comes to him taking a Sharpie to a map, doesn't really matter. It's not a huge deal. No. Yes. And I kind of get some people calling me and say, I can't believe you're spending an hour talking about President Trump and this Sharpie when there's still a hurricane on the East Coast. Like as if we can't contend with these things altogether. It lends to a bigger issue, okay, where the president continues, and he doesn't even have to lie. That's the worst part, right, JD and Marge? He doesn't have to.
It's not
what are you doing? You're doing it for no reason.
It's not like weathermen are 100% accurate. I mean,
but I'm not just talking about this.
They're at best 40% accurate.
There's so many times that he says things that are not true, or he lies about, that he doesn't even need to lie. He just does it because it's convenient, right? Or because it makes him sound better, or because he thinks it'll deflect away from something. There's so many. It's not like he lies about every huge thing. He lies about stuff that doesn't even matter.
It's cool to integrate himself and to make comments on this and to try to help out the situation, but then you need to step away from the table.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to make it. You don't need to divert the attention from the catastrophic event to you. And that's what he continually does. And in this situation, it's actually hurting the United States of America. It's hurting our country. It's not helping anybody.
Well, and how do we look to the world? I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, we look like fools, basically. And you said about how he lies about things. I still go back to the time that I think he was meeting with the German chancellor.
Mm-hmm.
He said his dad was born in Germany. When everybody knew he was not. He was born in New York City. Come on,
Yeah, and he wants to be a jack.
Well, no,
he wants to be a jack of all trades too. He's like, I'm the best at this. I'm the best at that. I know everything about this. I know everything about that. And and I think to myself, guy, just take a step back. You don't have to be all knowing on everything. Okay,
correct.
We know that. We all know you're not. We all know that you're not a genius. We all know that you're not wired into everything.
I think he's a very good business mind, and he's definitely. I mean, the fact
he's a brander. He's a great brander. He's a good brander. That's what he does.
He is a brilliant marketer.
But the other stuff,
and that being said, his grandfather was a German citizen, and he came to the United.
Okay.
That's where his wealth came from. But he himself, so he is German, but he himself was not born in Germany. But his grandfather was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he messed that up basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Marge, thanks for the call. We appreciate it. Have a great weekend, okay?
Yeah, thanks for the call, Marge.
Yeah. 702-257-5396 is the phone number. Chris Wynn along with JD live in studio. It's the Vegas Take. Lewis joins us now here on the show. Lewis, what's going on? Do you think we're making way too big a deal out of this? You think it's just, a much to do about nothing?
What's up, Lewis?
Hey, man. Look, guys, it's actually nice to have a show with dialogue without you guys getting triggered, but that's beside the point. Look, people have come to grips with Trump becoming president. It took 3 years, but you guys got there. What people haven't come to grips with is who Trump is. Trump is that 72-year-old uncle we all have that all he does is talk smack, can't get out of his way, isn't going to get out of his way, and that's grips with.
Well, and that's a very valid point, and it's not going to get any better. He's not going to change his ways. In fact, and me and Brian talked about this yesterday, but the entire face of politics in the United States right now looks to be Caucasian, 75 years old plus, and male.
You know what?
Yes.
Who only racists look at color. Who cares?
I'm just saying.
No. Who cares? And that's what the left is pushing. Look, this is what I look at. Okay, I mean, do I agree? Do I like Trump conducts himself? Sure, I like it, but I also understand why people don't. Okay. And I get it. He can't get out of his own way. All right. With that said, like I said, I understand the person. He's not going to change. So the sooner people can come to grips with it, the better off everyone will be. Now, he can't win for losing. He doesn't get credit on the right to try with drugs. He doesn't get credit that he's making it easier to get drugs from Canada. He's always fighting everyone. So you know what? Who cares? Why did he apologize? He doesn't get credit.
He does get credit for certain things. He got credit for prison reform, which he rightfully should have, right? That went down about 3-4 months ago. With prison reform, and
he's done very good.
Yeah,
he's done good things for small businesses.
The economy, right?
He's done a lot.
He's getting credit for that.
He's done a lot for the military.
No, he's not. No,
yeah, he is. He's getting credit for the economy. Here's the deal. Look, Look,
do you not live in this world?
I absolutely do. You got to let me finish, though, first. Let me tell you why he gets credit for the economy. He gets credit for the economy.
About is recession.
Look,
That's not giving a person credit for anything.
He gets credit for the economy because he and his administration and Republicans under his administration have been able to loosen regulations, okay? And that has been beneficial to the economy over the past 3 years. Now, you don't let me finish why I said he's getting credit for the economy. Yes, are there people on the left out there that say, "Oh yeah, Trump shouldn't get any credit"? Yeah, there are some out there, but they're wrong. Okay, and by the way, I'm a never Trumper saying that. Okay, but I'm also not going to say that. But let me finish. I'm also not going to say this, that it's all Trump because of Donald Trump. The economy is humming along. I'm not going to say that. Okay, because you don't give somebody credit. You know, when someone else runs a marathon for 24 miles. Okay, and then the other guy comes off the sidelines and jumps out of a cab and then runs the final 2 miles of the marathon. You don't give that guy credit for running the whole marathon. Okay, that's what Donald Trump is with the economy. So I give him credit. Yes, I don't give him a ton. I don't give him all the credit. I don't give him a ton of credit, but I give him credit. So that's my opinion on that.
And clearly he's getting credit in the media because they're saying that if the economy does falter, he has no chance of winning in 2020, which recognizes the fact that the economy is doing well by default.
But you know what, though? Look, recession or no recession, take Donald Trump out of the equation.
Yep.
What on the left is I'm not even going to say common sense, right? Because there is no common sense. Any level-headed or logical person, take Donald Trump out of the equation. What is being sold on the left that you could get with?
Oh, I could definitely get with either Joe Biden or probably, I would say, Elizabeth Warren, and this is why.
Okay,
And I'll tell you why. And we got to take a break. Hey, Lewis, I appreciate the phone call, by the way. Have a great weekend. I'll be really quick with this. We got to take a break. I think they're going to get pulled to the center, people. It's not these people are not going to be going wildly to the left. Once the decision is made, it's going to change. We have to take a quick break, and we'll come right back. It is the Vegas Take. I'm in for Brian Shapiro. My name is Chris Wynn, along with J.D. Sharp. We're rolling along on your Friday. We'll be back right after this.